Hello comic book fans, here's Earl Grey with my fourth installment of my videos with the best trades, graphic novels or omnibi from 2016. All of my top 10s are a bit arbitrary and highly subjective, but like in the last years, the superhero list is the most questionable, of course. My focus in this regard is very narrow, like you could have guessed it by the title, it's very Bat-centric. Plus some more or less random pickups here and there. One of them is We Can Never Go Home, Volume 1 from Black Mask. Bonnie and Clyde with superpowers, so to speak. Good start with relatable characters, but towards the end of the trade it went continuously downhill, and the finish left me a bit clue and speechless. Therefore, just an honorable mention, but only for the first issues of that trade. Number 10 is Black Canary, Volume 1, Kicking and Screaming. It is an interesting restart for Black Canary as the singer of a punk band named Black Canary. Okay, sort of a punk band. In some scenes it's more a teeny pop band disguised as a punk band. And there are aliens who come after their specially gifted guitarist kid, and there's a lot of clobbering. In the middle of the trade I thought this is a bit ridiculous, but in the end it sort of wrapped up and made sense, in a way. The starting point for the writer Brandon Fletcher was obviously to play around with the idea of sound, which is neat and fitting. And I definitely like the art from Annie Wu, and even the second artist, Pierre Guerra, delivers pretty good drawings. But I think it's a pity that they don't really got that punk angle, just in my opinion. But the competitive, girly bullshit feels totally not like L7, the Slits or the Muths, to name just a few punk bands with female lead that come to my mind. And why aliens? Wouldn't it be a greater idea to play this Dinah Lance in a punk band thing with a bit more realism and not so half-assed? But again, I am an old sack and what do I know? This is the second volume. I haven't read it yet, so on to Rank 9. Suicide Squad, the Silver Age Omnibus, Volume 1. For an omnibus, rather thin, and it's pretty unclear, I guess, why they have titled it Volume 1. Because what I've heard, this is all the squad material from the Silver Age. But anyhow, this was the Suicide Squad back then, when it consisted of more generic heroes instead of the motley crew of psychos of today. The stories are a bit aged and the expositional texts are stiff and not necessary for the most time. Otherwise, these comics are spiced with all the good ingredients like robots, dinosaurs, aliens, sea monsters, cyclops and more dinosaurs. Often all together in one story. And stuff like that will always get my attention. On 8, we stay in the Silver Age, but it's Batman. The Silver Age dailies and Sundays from 1966 to 1972. 3 nice hardcover volumes from IDW. You may check out Panellogy 120 for a closer look. 7 is a special number, as Grant Morrison has told us. So no wonder that on rank 7 there is a double shot of grandness. Klaus and Wonder Woman Earth 1. I've raved about Klaus on Panellogy 131, so let's talk about Wonder Woman. Here's something funny. Grant Morrison said that in preparation for this book he had read himself through the entire history of feminism. So, and this is the product of his studies? A book full of well-rounded babes posing and dressing for our viewing pleasure. If there ever was a ballsier misappropriation of feminism, please let me know. Anyway, you see it, this book lives from the lush cheesecake served from Jannik Paquette, and I am the last to complain. As to the story, Morrison's retelling of Wonder Woman's origin has some surprising moments. Maybe the best of them is the Black Steve Trevor, who can't relate too much to the idea of the obvious bondage theme, because chains remind him of the enslavement of his ancestors. Overall, it's a very fun read, but pretty much like Klaus, if you're looking for Grant Morrison going weird and meta and mysterious, these two books are rather not for you. Compared to the bigger crap 2016 had unloaded on us, the Suicide Squad movie was just a minor crime. But it was a huge disappointment nevertheless. No disappointment, in contrast, were the trades with the reprints of the Suicide Squad stories from the 80s, written by John Ostrander. 4 volumes until now in total. 3 and 4 came out 2016, 5 is on the way, and more to come. This series is superhero/anti-hero team fun with a punch, and it's my rank number 6. On 5 we have the Batman Noir edition of the Black Mirror from Jock and Francesco Francavilla, written by Scott Snyder. Watch panellogy 115 and you're allowed to do an educated guess already what my number 1 is in this top 10. On rank 4 we have Batman, the Golden Age Omnibus Volume 2. Even though I am not the biggest fan of thick, unwieldy omnibi, in this case it's a wonderful package of comic book history. Whenever I want to flex my muscles, I can read 1 or 2 short Batman stories from the golden era of comics. It's a well-made book, good binding, even though it has just the generic black cardboard covers. On 3, there's a reminder that there is a world outside of Gotham. Michael Fife's Copra. The 4th trade came out in 2016. In a way, it's the 3rd time that the Suicide Squad shows up in my top 10, because story-wise Copra is a pretty bold rip-off of Suicide Squad. There is an Amanda Waller, even though she has a different name, of course. There's Boomerang and Deadshot, whose pre-name is even Lloyd, and that Lloyd had a kid, and so on and so on. I could ramble half an hour about the similarities between Copra and Suicide Squad. It makes me wonder if it was possible to launch a title, let's say, with a hero that dresses up like a bat and has an arch-enemy who is a clown, and get away with it just as long as you don't call it Batman. Since the characters are blatant rip-off and the stories are not so different from other stories we all have read before, what makes Copra so special is the art and how the stories are told. Even though Fife uses text boxes to convey inner monologues, the actual action is always depicted in unique drawings, weird graphisms, and astounding arrangements. Most of the pages are so beautiful that you want to rip them out and put them in a frame. But of course you wouldn't dare to do that, because these trades are a unique experience of their own. Matte, thick paper and a cardboard stock for the cover that almost has some kinda handmade feel. These trades are plain gorgeous. But now back to Gotham. On rank 2, the silver medal goes to Batman, the Neil Adams Omnibus. More than 1,000 pages of Neil Adams goodness, starting in the 70s up to recent times. I wouldn't rank Adams as my favorite Batman artist by far. There are so many others like Tim Sale, Kelly Jones, Frank Miller, Frank Mazzucchelli or Greg Capullo, but it's neat to have eventually all of his creations in one big tome on my shelf. And finally, this should be no surprise, the golden teabag of 2016 superhero excellence goes to Batman Noir, The Killing Joke. If you want to have a closer look at this one, please watch my panellogy 115. And this was my obviously most subjective list with superhero titles. Tune in for the next episode with my favorite science fiction comics from 2016. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.